The committee sees the 12 miles of virgin, unobstructed, and what's going to happen to it if the power line goes through here. Transmission line. Well, here we are at the Stewartstown Town Hall, and this is the original application made by Northern Pass and Eversource. Pretty overwhelming. Everything from real estate value to endangered species to wetlands, it's all there. But you can go to any point in 192 miles, and from these documents you can figure out exactly what's going to happen in front of you. This is terrain change. Got the lines hanging. I think there's elevation view of the towers, and each one has a name. Single pole the whole way. Endless. Station 4 where I am is, it says on the plans, 3.3 acres. It's an 8-foot metal wire fence, you know, like a playground fence, 2-inch square stuff.
Yeah.
There's 3 strands of barbed wire on the top.
Wow.
I'm concerned and very hopeful that the Site Evaluation Committee does understand the whole total application, and in particular how it's going to affect the North Country. A dummy like myself is expected to devour and understand all this. Pretty tough. Guess that's what they have lawyers for.
Why don't they think about these things? Why doesn't New Hampshire have a strategic plan to deal with energy coming from the North Country? It's like, isn't it obvious? I thought we were going to be catering to tourists, providing an experience. I mean, that's what Governor Lynch touted during his, right? It was the Great North Woods. Hydro-Quebec Towers. I mean, where does that fit in? What Governor Lynch said was, they clearly don't want it, so you'll have to figure out another way to make it happen. So instead of going over there, it's going over here. But a lot of people are kind of holding their breath to find out what's going to happen. You don't want to keep investing somewhere that your kids are not going to live there, and your grandkids, and so it's hard to know. Burley's upper field, I believe.
Yeah, no, that's right on Heath Road. But the power line cuts through the field, cuts right through and right on the face here.
Right, it's just going to go, and then it's going to go over there and up there. You bond with the place. That's where we used to take the horses, go horseback riding while Burley was haying his field. I went up there just to look at the field, and you could see where bear has torn at a tree, and you go a little farther and you see an anthill that the bear has dug up. A little farther and you find bear scat. It's like the power line, it comes into a cathedral. That's what it feels like. It takes away far more than what it gives, because ultimately what it gives is money to some people, because this is not electricity that's needed. That's been established. That's why they can't use eminent domain. This is all for-profit stuff. It's
greed.
They've had a different experience than I've had, because I don't see how you can impact so negatively on an environment when they could just bury it. And what they say, it's too expensive to bury it. So why doesn't the governor say that's the cost of doing business? That's what should be said. That's what the governor should be saying.
95% of the people that come in here that I know are not from the area, I'll ask them why they're here.
And they always say the same thing, for the peace, the quiet, the beauty. And that's what we have here. That's our gem. That's what we have to offer to people.
Yeah.
And it's our livelihood, you know, on every aspect. I mean, people come here they'll walk in the woods, they'll ski, they'll snowmobile, those kinds of things, you know, hunt and fish and hike, and you can't take that away, you know, you have to have it. I mean, you think about the tourists that come up here not only to shop at stores like myself, but that eat at the restaurants, that stay at the cabins, that stay at the lodges, that do all kinds of sports activities where they're renting equipment. It's a whole domino effect. So tourism is, you know, paramount. Can't stress that enough. I love trees, so I have a lot of things that are evocative of the area, trees, nature. Each one is different. They have a little stone on the top of the handle, and there's never two that are exactly alike. I think a lot of it's been impacted by the loss of the balsam. Then you have Ethan Allen, who's down to a skeletal crew, so those people are gone. So over the course of time, yes, but again, we still have people to come up here to experience the woodlands and the forests, and everyone I speak to says the same thing: peace and quiet, you know, the beauty. That's it in a nutshell. And you know, once you destroy something like this, you cannot get it back. You just can't. Why would somebody come up here if they're going to see the same thing that they do where they live? You know, unfortunately those mistakes have happened, but we have an opportunity to right those wrongs and not have something like this happen here, where we can preserve what we have. You know, it's people's livelihoods are at stake. It's just so hard to even tap into the enormity of how people are going to be affected negatively. It's almost like putting a Walmart on the rim of the Grand Canyon. You just don't do it.
It comes from this direction to a point up on the side hill and then drops down behind. And what were there, 2 towers on the other side of the road?
So if you look at this, turn it this way, there's what we got.
That field.
Going by the scale, it looks like a couple of 100 feet from the edge of that field.
Yep.
So how many I'm going to see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then when it comes over the top right here.
Yep.
See, here's their
There's
house.
that house right there.
They're just waiting to finish, to complete the house. The house has been tied for, I think, a year before this whole thing came about, and they're nervous about finishing the house because they figure they may have to abandon it if they can't sell it when the towers go through. So they would like to retire up here, and everything is on hold for them.
2 1/4 miles. You mean to tell me they can't bury that for 2 1/4 miles?
The big issue here is unlike mine up on Bear Rock Road, is the traffic on 145. It's the second way to get to Pittsburgh, and there's only 2 ways unless you come in from Canada. Both of them are seriously obstructed by what'll be their new views.
If you're going to introduce a power line of this magnitude to this region, there's no way that it's not going to have an adverse effect on property values. It's going to completely kill them. Yeah, we bought this property in 2014. We had heard about the Northern Pass, but with it being so close to the state park, we didn't think we ever had to worry about it. If any other homeowner or small business wanted to put a transmission line or a maple sugar line for that matter that close to a state park, there is no possible way that the state would ever allow it under any circumstances. And to think that they're even considering it just makes you wonder who's in whose pocket. We're going to see, where it crests the hill right by that sugar bush, we're going to see at least 6 towers going through that valley before it starts over the backside of Sugar Hill. So it's going to be pretty invasive. I can tell you that the people that come up here hunting and fishing and snowmobiling, don't come to see those kinds of towers. My concern is noise. I had a friend of mine that actually was in Quebec snowmobiling last year, and he sent us all videos of the actual Hydro-Quebec transmission lines in a snowstorm and the noise that they were making. And it was just a continuous loud crackle. We don't know where we'll be at in 2 years from now if it goes through. I mean, I think everybody in this area will be screwed. Unfortunately, we don't have much of a choice but to ride it out at this point because we're already invested and, you know, we don't know which way it's going to go. It's scary. It doesn't seem to be about power. It seems to be about money and the power of money.
Close the road. I mean, I've been to a meeting to the Spire restaurant, you know what I mean, one of these informational meetings, and that was one of the things that was brought up, and they said, oh no, there'll always be one lane open when we bury that. I mean, that won't be a problem. Even these big meetings in town, that's been brought up, and they've never admitted to closing the road, not even for the day. At some point, they're going to be in the way. Sure.
You gotta use the only way in and out is Bear Rock.
That's right. The only thing that doesn't come over Bear Rock is what little bit we cut up here.
Yeah.
100 round bay.
Yeah.
Everything else is hauled in over Bear Rock. And the milk truck has to go every other day. And there's no road that's acceptable for the milk truck or the grain truck. And we're out of the way now. The rest of them are all in a kind of a group down the river. In 1900, you could get out of here with a horse and buggy any day that you needed to. A little bit absurd that in this day and age with vehicles that they're going to close a road that you can't get in and out for weeks to a time.
Yeah.
The road is a classic example. They promised that the road wouldn't be closed, that there'd always be one lane open, and now the truth of the matter is it's going to be closed for long periods of time.
Oh man, I love this road. I used to bird hunt this road all the time. Back when nobody knew about it much. I can't imagine coming up here and digging such a thing. Going through this place, look how narrow it is. Old tiny road laid out for ox carts originally. The wheel equivalent of a Model A. Same span, huh?
They're talking the construction period on the underground part here taking 2 years.
What a massive disruption that's going to be. How can you imagine putting such a thing through this? Look at this landscape. And I try to tell them we're getting 40 new miles of right-of-way. Public Service, now Eversource, made a big thing of pointing out time and again that they were going to use existing rights-of-way. And I said, oh yeah, well there was just this little matter of entirely new right-of-way cut through pristine, pastoral, farm and forested interspersion with a 35-mile view. For some reason, Brad, they didn't put that in the promotional material. If anybody were proposing this kind of job anywhere around Concord through a landscape like this,
Yeah.
people would be out with torches and pitchforks by the thousands. What makes it so hard for me to believe that New Hampshire has taken this thing, not only lying down, but looking at it as a bonus of some sort, some kind of godsend. As you know, if you leave here and go across the international boundary, which is right there, it's all clear. This is the end of the big woods. It ends right at the Canadian border. That's why they come here to poach our moose. We have the trees. I get mad not only because the project is so absurd on its face, using us as nothing more than a doormat,
Yeah.
but that the rest of the state, the southern part of the state, is so clueless about the price. You know, so clueless. Hydro-Quebec and Public Service and now Eversource are demonstrating by this project a lack of respect for the state that we all love. It's a heck of a way to manifest it by ramming a private for-profit power line down through country like this. That demonstrates no respect for the New Hampshire we're supposed to love. Look around here. It's New Hampshire. That's no way to treat New Hampshire.
People come up here for a reason, for vacation or build a camp or their second home.
Yeah.
It's a natural beauty.
Once anybody's been up here, whether it's to vacation or to maybe have a camp, they never forget it.
No.
They never forget this place.
Think about it from their perspective. They have a very important decision to make. And there's going to be people on either side that are going to be angry with them, no matter what they do. If you give them material that when they look at it, it speaks to them, really speaks to them, it's going to make it easier for them to make an informed decision.
My family has been on Indian Stream Road, Tabor Road actually, since 1890s. We don't make a lot of money here, but we take care of the land. And we think we have a right to keep the scenery as it is. This above ground power line, we're very much opposed to. It's been 6 years now since we went to the first meeting in Pittsburgh, and we've been fighting ever since. If the line was totally buried in those right-of-ways, so the benefit of the transmission rental benefit would be for the state of New Hampshire, I wouldn't be fighting anymore. I'd just say, well, I put up a good fight, I didn't get what I wanted, but New Hampshire got something. Northern Pass is only about the money and nothing about the scenery in the North Country, nothing about the people in the North Country. Marty Kaufman used the word cathedral when he's looking out over the hills of Bear Rock. And I see a cathedral in New Hampshire the minute I drive through the White Mountain National Forest. The North Country, all of it north of Franconia Notch, is very unique. There's no room for any above ground transmission lines. There's 4 ways to get to Pittsburgh. Every single one are going to be impacted negatively. There are 2 secondary roads into Pittsburgh and 2 primary roads. The first secondary road would be Hall Stream Road, and that will be impacted very negatively because there'll be a tower right near the road and one down near the stream. Primarily vacationists. I think there's only I know there's only a handful of farms there, but there are 140 individuals on the tax rolls with second homes. So every time they come home, they're going to have to drive under this power line. The second route into Pittsburgh is the most beautiful. If you're coming from Canaan to Pittsburgh, it's Old Pittsburgh Road. If you're coming from Pittsburgh to Canaan, they call it Old Canaan Road. But as you go down the hill just beyond the state line and you look north, you see a tunnel of color. If the line goes through, it'll be coming down off the Starling property from Hall Stream, and it'll enter their transition station. So we'll see the line coming off the mountain, and we'll see the transition station as we drive through that little corridor headed for Pittsburgh. Everyone, forever. The primary route to Pittsburgh, obviously, is Route 3. And again, there'll be a line coming up out from under the river, but the transition station will be up on the gravel pit. So that view is impacted. And then, of course, the other road to Pittsburgh is 145, and we'll see the above-ground line looking west from 145 as one goes to Pittsburgh. It's not what people say, but it's how they make you feel that matters. So when they're driving along and they see the power line, they won't feel quite as happy until they get north of those lines because they had to see that destruction. It will have an impact. I don't know how to measure the dollars and cents, but like I said, it's not what people say, it's how you make them feel. And if people feel the best with the scenery as it is, we can't afford to have that scenery impacted at all.
You've just witnessed a video giving you a tour of the proposed Northern Pass transmission line entering the U.S. at Hall Stream in Pittsburgh, passing through parts of Clarksville and Stewartstown, and proceeding into the Wagner woodlot in Dixville. Our goal here is to educate you on this route, its effects on the natural beauty and loss of landscape, and the negative impacts to any future development, especially the very important tourism industry. Tourism may well be the only serious industry left in the North Country. There are questions on many fronts as to how the Northern Pass projects would serve the public interests of the people of the state of New Hampshire.